Welcome back to another week of this time furniture building. I wanted to do something a little bit different this week. It's less of a tutorial week and more of a just come along with me as I create some projects. Last week, I hope you checked out my video of the set of really dark blue-green nightstands with the floral details. I will link it above if you missed it. Those were an absolute hit with my clientele and market in the area that I do work. And I had multiple people reach out telling me how much they loved them. For one person, they were just slightly too big for her space. And for the other person, they just sold too quickly, but she really liked them and wanted something similar for her bedroom. In certain cases, just like this one, I do have the ability to build a set of nightstands in the certain specifications that somebody is looking for. For example, slightly shorter, slightly smaller, or just recreating the same frame and body of nightstand, like this example right here, to the other set that sold. Now, since I did already go over in great detail how I applied the floral details and painted it and finished everything out on those other set of nightstands, I'm not gonna film and go over that part. This is just gonna be going over how I constructed both this nightstand and this one. They are both sets. They both have two, so I made 4 in total. And I really love the ability to be able to do something like that and create a custom piece for someone to cherish and have in their space for a long time to come. So come along with me this week as I recreate some nightstands and get to flex a little bit of building creativity. There's a lot of measuring and different cuts that go into making a set of nightstands, let alone 2 sets of nightstands. I do like to run off of a quickly jotted down plan. I create these every single time I create a new set of nightstands. This just helps me to envision what cuts I need to make in my big sheets of plywood in order to make the most out of each sheet of plywood. These plans are never formal. I usually just use grid paper, a straight edge, and a pencil to jot everything down, get my rough measurements, and kind of adjust as I go and as I build. This one was a little bit trickier just because these 2 styles of nightstands are a little bit different. They're similar enough, but when you look at the actual construction, there are several differences in the way I do build them. My game plan is always to rip the long sections down using my track saw, and then for the more precise cuts, I will use my miter saw as well as the table saw in order to make sure everything is exactly the size that I need and that the pieces, like for example the side pieces, are identical to each other and I don't end up with a wonky styled box. This is always such a messy process. Sawdust goes everywhere and I do have to do a lot of cuts. I do wish I had a better dust collection system in my workspace. I just don't. I don't have the space for it, so I like to try to clean up as I go, making sure to periodically vacuum up all of the dust and use the vacuum with the saws that do actually have attachments for vacuums and dust collection. To hold these together, I am going to be using a combination of wood glue and pocket hole screws. I found that this is plenty strong enough. There's so many types of joinery that you can use to build furniture, and I do find that this is a very accessible way, while also keeping in mind the time that it takes to build a piece. I make sure to put plenty of anchor points across all the surfaces that do need the stability, and that wood glue really does help to create a very, very strong and sturdy lock between all of the joints. The style of the first set of nightstands that I am putting together most closely replicates the previous set of nightstands that I refinished last week. The trim from the legs extend all the way down and actually become the feet at the bottom of the nightstands, so I am using wood glue and pocket holes to attach a middle panel in between the 4 sets of legs. I do want to create a little bit of dimension, so in this particular situation I did use some trim boards underneath that panel to raise it up a little bit and give it a lip between those trim legs and that inside panel. If there's one thing in my collection that I can never seem to have enough of, that's clamps. I have big clamps, small clamps, the really long ones that are a little bit more precise, can tighten really, really tight. I'm always on the hunt anytime I go to a garage sale or anything like that to see if they might have some extra clamps, because I always know I can use another one or two. My husband always makes fun of me for my spare wood collection, but this is a perfect example of keeping even some more narrow but long boards available. In this particular set of nightstands, there are a couple stringers that go between the drawer faces and flush with the drawer faces. And here is where some of those spare pieces of plywood or pieces of wood come in handy. I don't need something that stretches the entire depth of the nightstand. I really just am using it as more of a trim feature than any sort of stability. The nightstands don't need that for stability, especially the way I'm constructing the drawers and attaching them. But once again, a little spare board for the win here. Because I used a 2x2 for the legs and a 3/4 inch panel for that insert in between the legs, I do have to build up some material for the inside of the nightstand cavities for my drawer tracks to be mounted to. I'm looking to build that up so that that inside panel is flush with the side of those legs. And in order to do that, I found it was perfect to put in 3 pieces of this backer board that I used in a previous project. I'm going to add wood glue for stability and some brad nails just to hold it in place while that wood glue is setting up. This was that perfect solution to make sure I have a nice flush surface for my drawer tracks so that everything glides very smoothly and I won't have any issues when I'm going to install them. And with all those installed, these first set of actual boxes are done. I can now move on to the second set of nightstands and really start constructing them. They require a little bit more edge banding because they don't have those long trim legs that go all the way from the top to the bottom. They're more of a square box construction with a set of legs that sit underneath that box. That's just the style that my client opted to go for. She preferred that style over the other one, and it's an easy swap out for me. One thing that I do find a little bit tedious is edge banding. It really does take quite a bit of time to edge band all of the edges. I really want to take my time and make sure that that glue is thoroughly melted, because there's nothing worse than coming back after you've painted something to find that one of your edge banding pieces did not adhere properly and you have to go in with some kind of glue and really clamp it back down and run the risk of it messing up your paint job. But it's such a necessary step. It really does create a very finished product. Even though I do plan on painting these, I find that it still provides a cleaner finish underneath that paint rather than just trying to fill in the edges of the plywood. It's just more polished in the end. With those last cuts done, I can start to install the drawer tracks. I did want to wait and do this after I was done cutting so I didn't get sawdust all inside the tracks, and make sure it's nice and clean. With these ball bearing drawer slides, they run on obviously ball bearings, but there is a lot of grease in those working components, and I want to make sure that grease stays as dust free as possible. It's so important that I get these on level and straight. Otherwise, my drawers might not open properly. They could bind. So I am going to make sure my drawer box itself is level to begin with, and then level out the track itself. Now that that is done, I can start assembling the drawer boxes. These 90-degree corner clamps really do come in handy when it comes to holding everything square, especially when I'm dealing with such long drawer boxes. If things are not square, they won't ride properly with the drawer tracks. So it is important to get this correct when you're putting it all together. It'll just save you a big headache later on down the road. I always install the drawer faces last, making sure everything is level, everything is square, and I use a little spacer block to make sure that I have appropriate gaps on all sides of the drawer faces so that it can open smoothly and just so that it looks nice and level. In this particular situation, I am painting these so I can actually put my pin nails on the front and fill them later on. If these were going to be stained, I would put the pin nails on the back, but that is quite a lot more difficult. I really do prefer being able to put them on the front and the back at the same time so that it just lets that wood glue hold nice and tight. And with that last face on, these are finished. Again, I know this is a little bit of a different video this week, but I was excited to share the process and let you know that sometimes you can take inspiration from an existing piece, run with it, and recreate it. I think these turned out wonderful, and I think that my clients are going to be really happy, both with their own separate options that they picked. They're very heavy, very sturdy. I use a cabinet grade plywood, and they're going to be phenomenal, functional nightstands at the end. I hope you liked this. Thank you so much for watching.